We have so far sold about 700,000 drinks since we launched in cans. Yeah, 700,000 cans since we launched in October of last year. That's been split across 5 drops, if that makes sense. So we do them as like limited edition drops, and they usually sell out. I think the last couple sold out in 20 minutes and 17 minutes. In terms of revenues, we set, roughly speaking, like each can sells for about $2.80 right now when we sell them D2C straight from our website. So we don't, right now we're not going through distribution or wholesale, we're selling them directly from our website, not even through Amazon yet.
GM, hello. Welcome to another episode of Bitcast. I'm your host, Jason Kam, aka at Maple Leaf Cap. Today is July 7th, 8 p.m. Hong Kong time. I'm sorry, 10 p.m. Hong Kong time. Bitcast is being live streamed to BitClub members. Questions are from the members and my own. This is not financial advice. Today I'm speaking with Ovie, the co-founder and CEO of Rekt Brands. Ovie, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I didn't know you were a real guy until Sashank introduced me to you. I think you're not like the typical CT group don't quite know you. So we don't usually do this, but let's do it this time, which is just tell us a little bit about kind of, how you went from TradFi to, I guess, pumping out sparkling water.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. 4 years ago, if you told me on the trading floor that this is what I would be doing in 4 years' time, I'd be like, no way. But anyway, I started my career in TradFi. I used to trade high yield and distressed credit and credit derivatives at Barclays Capital. I spent time doing that in London. I spent time doing it in NYC on Wall Street as well. And I was pretty late to the crypto game. I heard about Bitcoin in 2012 in Thailand when someone was telling me about Silk Road and stuff, but it took me a long time to actually understand it. And it wasn't until 2021 I first bought Bitcoin. Then I bought ETH, and then I got stuck into NFTs. And, the timing was good for us. Like, it was right before NFTs took off. And that's kind of how I got into crypto, basically. I used to create a lot of digital art when I was younger, a teenager, well before crypto or NFTs and everything. And so after I'd started collecting NFTs, I kind of just had the urge to start creating art again. So created a few pieces, and then I created this collection called Rekt Guy, which was a free mint, had zero roadmap, no real plans for it. It really truly was a side quest for me, but we launched it in 2022 right before markets crashed. It kind of went viral because everyone was getting wrecked, and it was something people could resonate with and identify with. And from there, we just built like a super strong community over the next 2 years, and we did a couple of merch drops and events and stuff, and we felt like there was a lot of potential in Rekt as more of like a movement or a brand. So we thought, okay, we've got to create some sort of in real life product and shoot the shot. And we came onto the decision of sparkling water, and that's kind of led us where we are now.
And how big is the team? Like, how many of these guys are working on this with you?
We're a very small team. We're a team of 3 full-time people, including myself so far.
Oh, wow. So like almost no burn, I'm guessing.
We basically have no burn because also 2 of us don't take any salaries. And we're lucky that between us, we can sort of cover everything. Like, I do all the finance, accounting, bookkeeping, that kind of stuff. ChatGPT is amazing because that's basically like accounts for about a workforce of 10 people probably. I do all the design stuff. And then, between us, we figure out the tech side of things and marketing, etc. So yeah, we kind of work 24/7 around the clock, but a very, very small team. By design, because I've lost so much money investing in startups that run out of cash in 6 to 12 months, and I wanted this to be something that wouldn't have a runway issue.
And tell me, how did you settle on sparkling water? Because it was an NFT, and then you decide, oh fuck, we got to do a token. And then I guess after you did a token, you decided on sparkling water. Like, how does that? Like, why not anything else?
It's a good question. So the original NFTs look like that. That's the Rekt Guy. And he's obviously holding a drink. So we thought, okay, well, why don't we just make a drink? Because it kind of goes with the image. But we wanted to make an alcoholic drink, actually. We wanted to make Rekt rum. But we were told that...
Rekt rum. That's funny.
We were told that we couldn't encourage responsible drinking with the brand Rekt. So we ended up doing like non-alcoholic drinks. But I think the idea was like we wanted something where we could get the brand out in as many places as possible in the real world. And with drinks, They're very cheap to manufacture. You can mass produce them. And within crypto, you have this kind of easy in of events. Everyone has events throughout the year across the world. So we could just get drinks to events and hand them out for free, which would kind of be like a de facto sponsorship or marketing cost that people usually pay tens of thousands of dollars for. So it felt like a very easy way to make a product and market it and get the brand out in as many places as possible. Kind of worked well with the brand. And I think, we decided with sparkling water as well because I think there's a lot of products out there right now which are healthy and people want to live healthy, but they just don't look very cool or you don't feel cool drinking it. And the idea behind this was like, okay, maybe I'm not drinking alcohol tonight because I'm driving, or I just don't drink alcohol, but I'm at an event, a party or a festival or a rave or whatever, and I want to still drink something that looks cool, but isn't necessarily bad for an alcoholic. And that's kind of how we, settled on these drinks basically.
And this is like an easy to outsource, like extremely matured supply chain. You can get it off the ground very quickly kind of product.
Yeah,
that's why you settle on it.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we had zero experience in CPG, to be clear, but we managed to somehow figure it out. So,
yeah, and the four guys. So you did the finance, and like you're on. I guess you're the head of IR. Like we're talking now, but like who are the other three people?
Yeah. So there's two other. One of the co-founders was Mando, who's also pretty big in the crypto space, and he was a colleague of mine who I worked with at Barclays Capital. He was also at Goldman as well. So we started the whole Rekt journey together, and he was one of the co-founders. He's been less hands-on operationally, I would say, in the last 18 months. And the other two people who are working on it full-time is someone called Tabs and someone called Mia. Mia does all the operational, physical product, logistical stuff, which is huge because it's that stuff is like the difficult stuff, and then Tabs, like myself, is kind of a jack of many trades and there's a few bits and pieces across the board, I would say.
Got it. So like the one guy was the CPG guy.
We have one CPG person, Mia. Yeah.
He was making he was Coca-Cola before. He was like, what would he do before?
Oh yeah. So when we started out, we brought on an advisor, and he is a CPG guy. He founded a 7-figure revenue drinks company in the UK. It's like a ready-to-drink alcohol brand. So it's like cocktails and cans, basically. And he used to work at Diageo for about 7 or 8 years. So he has a good 7 or 8 years industry experience, and then about 5 years experience in starting a successful drinks company. And we had a mutual friend in connection when we started it. So he came on early as an advisor and sort of helped us make the connections and relationships and troubleshooting, which we've had a lot of. So that's definitely helpful.
I definitely want to get to the product and the roadmap side, but some more housekeeping here. You were an NFT collection before, like 10,000, and like everybody else.
Yeah.
And then the NFT is no longer. You only have a token, and then you have equity. So walk me through kind of that journey. Like what happened along the way?
Yeah. So in terms of the ecosystem, if you like, the first collection was the Rekt Guy NFT collection. It was a free mint. People just minted it, and then what we ended up doing when we wanted to make this pivot into Rekt Brands and the drink and etc. Something that I had realized from the 2021 era is lots of NFT projects raise capital and at crazy valuations, etc. And then their business model was to move from rewarding your community to trying to return to investors. And the way that they did that was to create more NFTs, try and make more royalties, and it ended up diluting collections, etc. And it was kind of like a mismatch or a conflict of interest in terms of who you were trying to reward. Yeah. So what we did is we actually, when we created Rekt Brands Inc., the company, we gifted equity in the actual company to our Rekt Guy NFT holders, and that was done via an SEC exemption called Reg CF in the US and executed by an SEC registered dealer broker. So we ended up KYCing everyone, etc. And went through a whole process to do that. So every Rekt Guy NFT holder got some equity in Rekt Brands Inc. We then did once that we launched that was in April 2024. So about 14 months ago or so. And after we did that, we then did Rekt Coin, and that was an airdrop for Rekt Guy NFT holders. And I would say so right now you have the Rekt Guy NFTs, you have Rekt Coin itself. I would say Rekt Coin is the thing that seems to move most on what we're doing. If we have, positive developments, Retcoin will move higher than the Rekt NFTs. And the Rekt NFTs, I think, truly is now like the art collection that people who feel attached to the brand and a bit sentimental and want to have it as their PFP. Like that's really what it's for, I would say.
Yeah, and then you do have the equity box. If you can disclose, have you raised more capital? Like how much is from external shareholders, effectively?
Yeah, it's a good question. So in November last year, we did a $1.5 million safe at Rekt Brands Inc. And that round comprised just angels and community. So we had no VCs in that round. And the idea was like we didn't want to go with the whole high float, low FTV, big VCs coming in, just basically then trying to monetize the token. It was meant to feel like more of a community-led thing, but we did that back in November, and it's $1.5 million that was raised.
Got it. And you have like a 15, 20% external shareholder base, given you also airdrop some equity to people?
Yeah, so we actually put up 10% of the equity of the company to be able to be claimed, and only 5% was claimed. And in terms of the capital we raised, it was a safe. So technically it's not equity yet, but it will be convertible into equity if we do a future investment round.
Got it. And those safe investors got tokens as well?
Yeah, so we ended up airdropping tokens to safe investors, which meant, and there was no SAFT or token warrant. So we were able to do that actually without any vest, which you would normally require a 6-month vest in the US. So from day one, all the tokens have been circulating basically. Same for the team tokens. Same for the tokens we gave to launch partners, etc. Everything's circulating from day one, with the idea of being like, let's fucking figure out price discovery. Let people who want to sell early, and then have a different story.
So there's no lockup at the moment.
No lockup. No.
Okay.
There's no lockup. The only thing about go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, there's no lockup. The only thing I would say is when we started, 39% of the token supply was held by the Token Foundation for future rewards. So the idea has been like every time you purchase drinks, you're able to claim some Retcoin. That's specifically earmarked for future community rewards. And right now that balances 34% of the total token supply.
Yeah. And the remainder, can you break that down for me?
Yeah, sure. So 15% of the total supply was allocated to the team, 7.5% to investors, 3% to launch partners, and then we had a total of 63.5% go to community, of which that 39% has been held for future token rewards. And then the remainder was the airdrop to the Rekt NFT holders. And also the people who purchased the first drink sale that we did as well. So there's quite a big allocation to community. And then the last piece was 11%, which was for we call ecosystem, which ended up going towards market makers, centralized exchanges, etc. So that's the remainder of it.
Got it. Wow. I mean, the guys who bought the NFT like really made out.
Yeah, I mean, the guys who minted the NFT really made out because it was a free mint. So
the guys who minted the NFTs, that's what I meant. Sorry, that's cool. So very loyal fan base. So why don't you walk me through the numbers a little bit, like the economics of how much does it cost you to make, and like how much have you shipped, your revenue, and maybe just walk me through those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have so far sold about 700,000 drinks since we launched in cans. Yeah, 700,000 cans since we launched in October of last year. That's been split across 5 drops, if that makes sense. So we do them as like limited edition drops, and they usually sell out. I think the last couple sold out in 20 minutes and 17 minutes. In terms of revenues, we set, roughly speaking, like each can sells for about $2.80 right now when we sell them D2C straight from our website. So we don't, right now we're not going through distribution or wholesale. We're selling them directly from our website, not even through Amazon yet. And in terms of cost, it really depends. We manufacture drinks in the UK, we manufacture drinks in the US. It depends what you put into it, but something like $1 a drink is roughly the cost basis for us right now in terms of the variable cost. So as you can see, there's quite good gross profit margin for us, which most beverage companies don't get to see because their whole way of selling drinks is to go through distribution, wholesale, supermarkets, and you end up having to give up margin to many different people in between in order to get your drinks to market. So good thing for us is having an existing community and, being able to reward people with Web3 B2C type mechanisms. We're able to actually sell these drinks completely D2C from our website for now.
And so it's like a $2 million revenue, and then I'm guessing kind of $1.3 million in gross profit, just about.
Around something like that, yeah.
Okay. How much have you paid in token? I guess like 5% token incentives, in addition to the initial drop you gave out.
Yeah. So in addition to the initial drop, it's been 5%.
Got it. Which I guess will be worth like a couple $1 million, right? Kind of at the current valuation.
Yeah, it depends. It's funny because it depends. The valuation is quite a big thing for us because if we were 10 times higher, that if we were at a $1 billion market cap, for example, FDV, that rewards pool was now $340 million. So obviously, you're not going to give out the same percentage of supply. So it kind of it as it goes up, it allows us to retain more of that supply, but also increase the reward pool too, which makes sense.
I haven't bought it myself, but I guess that the process is you go on your website, you kind of register, you put in your address, you put in your credit card, you can also pay through crypto.
Yeah.
And then when it airs, you just hit and then you're done. Like you basically get your order, and then you get a claim kind of window. Okay, you bought this, so you can claim these tokens. Is that roughly correct?
Yeah, that's pretty correct. Yeah, we usually have a point system basically. So you buy drinks, earn points, and then once the sale or the season is over, those points have redeemed for Rekt Coin, which is a claim process.
Yeah. This is an interesting situation because because I'm not a CPG person. I'm kind of a, like listed mature company stock guy historically. And then I'm also like a fellow degenerate. Like, it seems like you have two businesses running aside each other. There is this meme coin shill machine kind of that is your Rekt token. And then you have this CPG franchise, both of which are tied to the hip because you're almost using token as incentives. There is a Silicon Valley or a CPG guy side of me, which is like, this is not like 1 million, 2 million sales is good, but like how fast can you ramp? This is worth like 2-3 times sales. There's the other side of me is like, this is a product. This is a token with real product almost. So it's quite rare around meme coins. It should be worth quite a bit of money. How do you yourself mentally kind of put the two together? And how do you think about this business holistically if you think about like value going from left to right?
Yeah, it's a hard one because there are two sides of the business. You have the CPG part, and as you say, like, maybe you can push for like a 5 times revenue multiple, maybe, but it's a very low multiple industry. And then you have the crypto tech side of things, which is like, who knows what that multiple should be? Like, who knows what you even compare it to, right? So some of that stuff gets very intangible. So there's two sides of the fence for sure. Obviously, we started out in crypto. We have a traditional finance background. We are financial crypto tech people. So I would see what we're doing first and foremost as like a crypto or tech brand or crypto or tech company, because that's essentially what we are. And that's how I think this should be viewed. I think what we're showing and demonstrating is you can, within crypto, within the world of Web3, something you can do is build IP, build a community, build a brand in a very accelerated fashion. Like, it takes a traditional company years, if not decades, to build that big a following from just a basic product, which is like a sparkling water, right? It's very hard to do. But because of the reward mechanism in Web3, our community is people who feel grateful that they minted something for free and now have made thousands of dollars. That, if you want to find a way to get someone to be loyal, making them free money is one way to do it, right? And that's something that is very specific to Web3. I think that nothing else in the traditional world can really even get close to mimicking, because you don't have this idea of creation of money outside of Web3. So first and foremost, I think we're a tech company, but what we've demonstrated is we can use those principles to actually step into the traditional world, in the CPG world, and make a product that is wanted and desirable by people who support and believe in the brand. What is really interesting now, and this is the thing that I think is interesting for us, if you build a product or create a product that's actually perceived to be really good in addition to what you have by the traditional industry, and you actually have a good product, that's when things are very exciting because people are like, oh, wow, this is actually a really good drink. Oh, shit, they already have like a massive community and people buying it. That's when this thing can be very, very special. And that's, I think, what we're trying to push and aim for. And we've had really strong reception from the traditional crowd. And even though right now it's just sparkling water, we have been in product development of other products. The functional space, functional nutrition space, especially beverages, has been huge. In the last year, you've had 1.5 to $2 billion acquisitions or raises. Olipop, Poppy, Alani Nutrition, Ghost Energy. These are all multi-billion-dollar acquisitions and raises because that space is massively growing, which is clean energy, focus, gut health, that kind of stuff. So we've been in product development, and in the second half of the year, which we've just crept into now, we'll be launching some new stuff, which will be in that like even much more higher CAGR space within functional beverages. And that's what I think is potentially very exciting for us. If we can get a good product out there that hits the functional stuff while having this like massive tailwind from the crypto side of things, then it could, that's how you try to command like okay, this could be a 20x multiple or 25x multiple. Like think about potential growth of something like that.
Yeah, and the users who purchase these drinks, do they view it as like, this is my way to purchase the tokens cheaply, and then I can also get some free sparkling water on the side? Like, how do they actually kind of think about this when you talk to your users?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a combination of both. Like when we watch the price action, you can see that when we've announced like a new drink sale, the price kind of stalls a little bit, or even trends lower because people save their bullets for buying the drink. But people do buy the drink for itself as well. Like on our first drop that we did, 50% of our sales were in crypto, 50% were in fiat, and only 50% of the rewards were claimed. So half the people who bought drinks just bought the drinks and didn't even claim the rewards.
Yeah.
It was the most bizarre thing. And the second drop,
is it the same metric? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same metric. And well, they're two separate metrics. One is for we can see how many of the rewards were claimed, and the other one was like the split between crypto and fiat. Because the second drop we did, about 64% was paid within fiat, but again, the claim ratio was about 50%, I would say. So there's something. I think it's because our community. Every sale we tell our community. Every single person, you have to try and get at least 3 people to buy drinks, whether it's your mum, your dad, your friends, family, whoever.
50%.
Yeah, just get them to buy. Go onto Rekt.com. It's a normal Shopify flow. You can pay with credit card. Just get them to buy. So if everyone successfully does that, and probably the hit rate is maybe somewhere below 3 people per one person. Maybe that explains it. It could be a reason.
Is that 50% claim rate the same for the 4th and the 5th drop?
No, so the claim rates were much higher for the last 3. Actually, it was closer to above 90%. But the way that we launched those drops were a bit different. So a couple of them were NFTs you had to purchase and then redeem for your drink. So pretty much only crypto native people.
I see.
And then one of them was a pre-sale, which was done just in crypto as well. So
why did you go backwards into catering to only crypto natives?
Yeah, really, really good question. Lots of people push back on that. That drop specifically was a collaboration with OpenSea. So we've done some of these collaboration drops. One was with Abstract, one was with Jupiter, the Solana aggregator, and one was with OpenSea. So we thought it would be cool to be like, oh, cool, you can actually buy Rekt drinks on OpenSea. And that's how we launched that one, basically.
I see. And can people purchase retail like on your website currently, or do they have to just kind of wait for these drops?
At the moment, you have to wait for the drops. So we don't have a traditional store where you can just come and buy drinks as of yet, and we're kind of sticking with the limited edition drops. Kind of build that scarcity or desirability of the supply that we have.
Got it. So I mean, the mental framework I have for myself is this is your kind of non-cash token based, customer acquisition cost. And as long as whatever degenerate base believes they are destined for greatness by holding your token, I mean, you always have this inflated COGS that's out there that you can kind of just tap and drive your revenue, gross profit, and eventually your equity for. Am I thinking about it correctly? And do you ever plan to kind of tie the cash flow to the token? Maybe not like rigidly, but like loosely in the future?
Yeah, two good questions. So yeah, I do believe the current token supply held by the Token Foundation, which right now is worth about 50 or $55 million. I view that as like a marketing budget. It's a user acquisition budget. And if we're able to tell a good story and grow the market cap, that budget grows, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
that budget is only possible within Web3 because it's just the creation of money. Like we just made, Retcoin was just made out of nothing, right?
Yeah.
And it has a
Yeah.
value based on nothing. Like
Yeah.
no traditional company can just create that. And it's desirable. People want to own it. So I view that as the user acquisition budget, if that makes sense. And the goal is to like, increase that and grow it to like a crazy number. So then people are like, oh shit, these guys have a massive war chest of being able to grow and convert that into revenues over time for Rekt Brands Inc. Second question in terms of linking operational performance to the token. So Rekt Brands Inc., which is the operating company, it has already made a couple of token purchases which were done with revenues from drink sales. And that so far has been done on an ad hoc basis. I do think at some point further down the line when perhaps the legality of it is more clear, we could create some sort of fixed mechanism where like a certain percentage of revenues goes towards buying back the token, perpetually or over a certain amount of time. I think we need to grow to a bigger business for that to become meaningful to people. But we've all seen how something like Hyperliquid has done super well with a model like that where fees are used to actually buy back tokens, and it's obviously something that's at the forefront of our minds, I would say.
I see. So when regulation becomes clearer, because I mean, your cash is best for the growth of the business. This is even more relevant for you than like internet businesses.
Yeah.
But I guess when regulation dictates, okay, if like the Rekt coin becomes equity, like let's say when you're like $1 billion sales business, I mean, 10 years down the road, the free cash flow you spits out could just like be in the market buying out all the Rekt tokens, or you can convert them back into equity, maybe at some point, but not today.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we spent millions of dollars in buying back Rekt right now, it wouldn't really, we're in the growth phase right now, right? Where those dollars for company growth are actually very, very important. Every dollar counts actually there. So it's just about where we are in that timeline or life cycle, if you like. And I think it's something that could potentially be a good carrot to look forward to in the future if we can really grow, use the cash for growth, I would say.
It's really hard to paraphrase this because we have to avoid the securities designation, but like, how do you think of your equity holders versus your token holders when you kind of talk to both of them?
Yeah, it's a good question. One thing I would say is, unlike many projects, most of the Venn diagram of our NFT holders, equity holders, and token holders probably has a huge amount of overlap. Like everyone owns everything. So I'm never really having to think about like, oh, if I do this, it's bad for these guys, or if I do this, it's bad for these guys, because generally it benefits everyone. And when we've done things at times where one element of that ecosystem is missed out, we haven't had much pushback because the same group of people are still benefiting. So that's a fortunate position to be in, and that's also something that's been constructed by design. Now, as things develop, it changes a little bit, right? Because let's say you receive a big investment by strategic at the equity level, or you receive a big buyer of the token comes along, and then different parts of value start going to different places, and they are different things. So I would say the way that I view, let's say, the token versus the equity is they're two very different, not very different, but they're two somewhat different trades or stories depending on the horizon you're looking at. And I think the equity is something that will take time to grow over many years, and things don't just happen overnight. The token is perhaps the liquid version of the sentiment of the equity, the sentiment of the brand, the sentiment of what we're doing, where people are able to speculate on that day in, day out, and millions of dollars of volume trades every single day. That's a liquid version of that. So while you may not own actual shares in the company and have, the actual thing, you can actually trade it. It's liquid and it will move more in a real-time way. And that's kind of how I view it. So if you're someone who's like, okay, like I think Rekt's going to do really well in the next week, you go and buy the token. If you're someone who's like, I can't be bothered to see the price volatility, you try and get into the equity. And if you're bullish on both, then you own both, which was what I think most people or some people have.
Okay. Well, this is the question for the last
Yeah.
part. I want to ask you if there's a way for anybody to participate in rec equity, but we'll ask it later.
Yeah.
Here's the exciting part, because there are so many directions where you can go. You still have a pretty sizable war chest that goes up as you do further better. The premium, I don't know how well it trades over time, but 50 million is a lot of money to grow your business. There are many directions you can go down to. Why don't we just talk about like the couple things that gets you the most excited in the next, quarters and year that could meaningfully drive the business?
Yeah, there's two things I would say. The first thing is the way crypto regulation is going in America. Like we started this whole thing in 2023. Summer 2023 is when we started the drinks path. And middle of last year, we sort of had everything designed, mapped out, had the idea for the token, etc. And when we started speaking to traditional beverage guys and industry guys, and as soon as you mention crypto, people like hang out the phone. They don't want to speak to you. They're like, don't want to touch it, right? Then obviously Trump got elected. You have the Bitcoin Reserve. You have the crypto task force in the US, and everything has completely shifted. And now the same guys who hung up the phone to us are the guys who are now calling us back because they've obviously looked to see what we've gone on to do. And secondly, when you speak to someone, you mention crypto and they're not a crypto guy, their reaction generally is like, shit, I don't know anything about crypto. I'm still trying to figure out how we can incorporate this into what we're doing or how it's going to impact business and economy in the US. I need to get smart on this. I need to learn on it. And you guys have crypto native have already been doing it for 4 years and are doing well at it. Like we need to get involved in this and have a stake in it, what that stake may be. If it's just a partnership or investment, whatever it is. So there's been a massive, shift, and we've experienced that firsthand because we've gone from like just not being able to make any traction with traditional stores or anything, and then we did like a 7-Eleven store launch in LA a few weeks ago, and it was like the same guys we spoke to who were just like not interested, and now like shit, let's do this. We're super excited about it. How did this work? And it's I would not fade how strong and powerful that tailwind is, because I think right now every single traditional business in the US, if they're not doing it now, they will be at some point, are going to be figuring out, okay, how the hell do we incorporate crypto into what we're doing beyond just accepting crypto payments in order to take advantage of this potential, growth in this industry. And most people don't know how to do it. And when you see something like us, where it's like, wow, these guys just have like a $150 million token that that was just created out of thin air. Like, how does that work? Obviously, I'm oversimplifying the case of what it is, but someone on the outside will see that and be like, shit, how do we do this? And I think that's a really big thing and a massive tailwind in what we're doing. And the second thing is that we've been really pushing this idea of our token being a brand coin. And that's a term that I coined, pun intended, together a few weeks ago. And the way that I view it is like, it's essentially a meme coin. What is a meme coin in this space? It's not just a coin with a meme. It's a coin that doesn't have utility, it doesn't have direct cash flows, but still has value. And I think the idea behind what we're trying to push this narrative as a brand coin is like, if you're a startup brand or a challenger brand, everyone has their favorite startup brand, and the way that you support it is you buy some of their products very early, and if it does well in the next 3 or 5 years, all you have to show for it really is bragging rights. But with Rekt Drinks, we're a startup brand. You buy some of the drinks to support, you earn some of this token, and if you hold on to it and we kill it in the next 3 to 5 years, that token will go up in value, and you've been rewarded for being an early supporter. I've actually written a whole light paper on it, which we're going to release today, like very shortly. So that narrative, I think, it's not new. Consume to earn is not new. The idea of being rewarded in Web3 is not new. This idea of like this B2C mechanism is not new. None of it is really new, but I think we've phrased it in a way where it makes sense to someone who's not in crypto. It makes sense to the average person. But what we've also done is we're a 3 to 4 years strong community that's built up over that time, and then we've launched this brand coin. We haven't created this thing from scratch to say, by the way, here's the coin, because when you do that, you just naturally attract people who want to flip it and move on. Whereas we actually have people who've believed in this brand well before we even had a token, and now these people want to hold that token. So you build this real sense of like community and cult, if you like, and that I think is a very special thing. So yeah, those are the two things I'm excited about. Like, we're very keen on pushing this brand coin narrative, and I think many existing brands out there can use this to their advantage, and it's actually best for existing brands not already in crypto who are crypto curious. And yeah, US regulation in crypto, I'm like extremely excited about because we are a US company, and I think that's going to be a massive tailwind for us for sure.
On the brand coin part later, because I do want to touch on that, but on the first part, which is doors being open to you on partnerships, distribution, like introductions, endorsements, probably. Like tangibly, how should I think about what that means to your business in like a quarter, a couple months, a year's time?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we talked about how all of our sales so far are D2C, and we make a lot of gross profit margin. The reality is, if you want to get to, we also spoke about how if we can turn this from like a 7-figure revenue business to like an 8-figure revenue business, then there's more of a war chest to start buying back more token and that kind of stuff. So the reality is those two things, it's very difficult for those two things to coexist. We can't remain D2C and expect to do $40-50 million of revenue every year, right? You have to get out there to the masses, and that the path to get there is through traditional distribution, through wholesale. There are some very big distributors out there across the world. We want the headline where it's like, okay, we're now in 8,000 7-Eleven stores, and we're now in like 10,000 Walmart stores. That's like real distribution, real potential top line revenue growth, and that's where we want to get to eventually when the time is right and when we can command like a better deal and better terms for ourselves. But having this crypto background allows us to have those conversations now with potential partners, with potential distributors. And so when I talk about those partnerships with the traditional world, that's kind of what we're focused on. It's like, can we get a really big distribution deal which will put us, across multiple states or across the entire country in the US or across Europe, something like that, where we're then like, okay, shit, instead of manufacturing 250,000 drinks every time, we now have to go out there and manufacture 10 million. Maybe that's when we have to raise more capital. And that's when things, it changes from like being the scale we're at now to a much bigger scale. And yes, our gross profit margin will go down by 90%, whatever it is, but our top line revenue will go up by, 10, 20x, whatever it is. And that I think is obviously on net is massively value accretive to both Rekt Brands Inc., the company, and also the token as well.
Yeah. Is there any way you can do like customized, like packaging where eventually wherever you purchase it, 7-Eleven, like there's a way to allow for such purchase to be entitled to airdrops, or is that not like for that mass distribution channel? I'm guessing that's not tied to token.
Yeah, it can be tied to token, but that's the logistically that's the thing we've been trying to figure out for a while. So we had it possible for the 7-Eleven store launches we did a couple of weeks ago, where every time you purchased a drink, you were given a card which had a QR code, and you could scratch it off, enter the code, and you'd be able to claim your Rekt coin without even needing to set up a wallet, because it was all done on Abstract Chain through a Privy wallet. It's difficult to print unique QR codes on cans. They have to all be the same sleeve or the same printing. So that's the part that's difficult. What you can do is you can print unique codes under these tabs, but there's super high MOQ to do that, and you need different remember, there are different cans in the US, Europe, Asia, etc. So as we scale, and if we can get to that, that we're now going from manufacturing hundreds of thousands of cans to millions of cans, we could potentially, the rails are there to build that, where you'll scan this QR code, you'll open the can, type in your code, and you'll be able to actually claim the coin. Now, again, like the legal stuff is, you have to consider where you are. If I did that in the UK, it might be a bit of a difficult thing, because maybe it's viewed as like a token sale or whatever. So it kind of depends on the jurisdiction whether you can allow that direct claiming of token or not. But I think the world is generally moving in that direction there, and I feel confident we'll be able to do it at some point. But the rails and infrastructure are kind of like almost there, I would say, in order to be able to do that.
So initially, it's not part of the plan, but let's just open up distribution first, so people can get their drinks on shelf.
Or it could be part of the plan. Maybe it could be part of the plan in the US. Like these things in the US can change, I think, very rapidly. So it still potentially could be, I would say.
When should we start? Because this line of business is zero, right? Right now, it's just D2C batches launches. I'm guessing that will continue. Like, walk me through the cadence of when you want to do these like batch D2C, and then in order of magnitude and timing, the mass distribution, how fast can we start seeing it in terms of units?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think I would like to see our D2C revenues hit something like the $4 to $5 million range annually before we start, really getting a bit more aggressive on the distribution stuff. I think we're probably potentially on track for that this year with what we have coming in the second half of the year. Like, I would say conservative budget for annual revenues this year is probably something like $3.5 to $4 million. I think we could hit 5 if we have a couple of things planned. If they go really well, I think we could potentially hit 5. So, if that goes well by the end, and we have these distribution conversations are ongoing at all times. Then it's not just like, oh, well, let's just do it. You update people with what's going on. You have a phone call, you catch up, etc., with multiple different people. So I think if we can like smash these launches that we have for the second half of the year, and there's going to be more products. Remember, it's not just going to be. This is just a very basic sparkling water, and that's all that's been out at the moment. We're going to have some other stuff which is going to be very interesting. So I think if we can hit that by the end of the year, then probably around November, December time, start having very interesting conversations. And my goal is like, can we get that massive headline at some point in Q1 next year? Where it's like, okay, oh shit, Rekt is now across the entire of the US or whatever. I think that's a rough idea of the timeline, I would say, and that I have in my head right now.
Got it. So it's like what do you call that? The step function is path dependent, and it depends on whether you can hit your targets. Okay. You keep mentioning this functional drink because I'm guessing to hit your 5 million target, you would need that. Can you tell me a bit more about what you have planned there?
Yeah. So look, we've been developing other drinks that aren't just flavored sparkling water, and we've been developing other products that aren't just drinks. So it will give us like a much wider range, and there are other channels in which we can sell them, which won't just be the usual D2C thing. There are other experiences we can have for people to claim the token, which won't just be, the point system thing. So I think, with drinks, one thing I'd mention about drinks is they're very hard to deliver because they're heavy packages. It's very costly, and it's actually quite a big logistical hurdle to do it. And we will continue with drinks, but with the other stuff, it's much easier to manufacture like a shit ton of them, store them, and ship them at like relatively low cost as well. So I think the combination of all these things will allow us to hit that $5 million target. But I think the other stuff we have planned is also going to bring in more of a traditional crowd for the product itself, and not just on the crypto side of things. And that's the part that I think is really interesting for me.
Got it. Then a two-part question will become, should we expect the increase in float, assuming the price doesn't change? Should we expect the increase in token incentives that you give out to exceed the merchandise gross profit that you manufacture? Is that like in your mental gymnastics, like it's like we got to keep it under this hurdle and we're making this much money so we don't dilute everybody? Like, what's going through your mind when you plan these incentives?
Yeah, that's one of the hardest parts. It's like you want people to feel like, oh shit, I got a lot of coins, but then you don't want everyone to like dump them and then it has you have this immediate sell off. So there's a lot of factors that play into it, and it really depends on the time at which it's done and what we're trying to achieve with it as well. Like something like market conditions, I think, is an important factor for us. And if the market, if it's like a massive puke in the market and shit's going really bad and we have to launch this token, that might affect like how much we decide to give. So it really depends, I think, on a case by case basis, and I think it depends on the drop as well. Like I feel like a new product maybe should warrant higher rewards because it's like you want to be a big launch and that kind of stuff. But it's very hard. It's one of those things that I think is more of an art, not a science, and you can kind of like finger in the air, judge, estimate sell pressure, estimate like perceived happiness of airdrop and all that kind of stuff. And the return profiles have changed. The very first one we did was done when the token launched at a 20 million FTV, and right now we're at 150 million FTV. So anyone who held onto that has made something like whatever it is, 6-7 times their money. Whereas the two drops after that have kind of been more of like a 50% to a 100% yield. The Jupiter one we just did was a much lower supply, but it ended up being like a 220% yield. So it really depends on like the situation, a case by case basis. And I think I wouldn't, to answer your original question, I wouldn't ever assume anything. We always try and do the best that we can to that's best for project growth and also for best for the people who support, I think.
And then it seems like when you're broadening the SKUs, you stop becoming just a sparkling water brand. So I would imagine in the future you'll have different product lines, but there's this unifying spirit that's like your Rekt for. So what would that look like for you? Like, what would the Rekt brand kind of stand for as you broaden your SKUs? Like, what would that lifestyle look like?
Yeah, look, I think Rekt is a very common and well-known word, not just in crypto, but outside of crypto, everyone knows it. And we have the trademarks for Rekt, like across all the products that we have, and we also recently acquired Rekt.com as well, so we own the domain for it as well. So,
how much does that cost?
I can't disclose it. Maybe I'd like to tell you offline, but not. I think we got a good deal on it. That's for sure. We definitely got a very good deal on it. We got quite
Sounds
lucky.
Expensive. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was not as expensive as I thought it was. So it was a good deal for us in the end. The ideology behind the brand for us is like, Rekt is generally like, okay, I got Rekt last night drinking too much alcohol. I got Rekt in this shitcoin, whatever it is. But I think people use it in more, even though it's supposed to mean something negative, I think people use it in kind of like a positive or light-hearted tone. And I think for our community, we have this saying, which is down bad, but never dead. I think the idea of Rekt for me is like, you could get Rekt on something and lose everything, but you still have like one chip left at the table where you can make it all back in one trade or whatever it is. It's sort of like, it's more about survival. It's more about like, I can get Rekt many times, but I'm still surviving. I'm still standing. I can still have the energy to go on and do other things. And that's kind of like the message I think we want to portray. I think the branding of it, the colors, it's very energetic. It feels like very high octane. And this world of crypto is very high octane. It's high risk taking, right? Like people who want to like, it's for people who are yes people. It's not for people who say no. It's like, yes, I will take that bet. Yes, I'm going to take the risk. Yes, I'm going to gamble on this or DJ on this. And the consequences may be bad and I may lose 99%, but I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway because like, I'm just like, on the search for this like high octane stuff. And I think that's kind of the messaging that we are trying to portray and have for it, which really is just like something that I resonate with a lot. And I think a lot of people in crypto do resonate with a lot because it's kind of why we're all here. Even people who've made a ton of money is still in the fucking trenches, right?
I suppose that's the brand, like that's the lifestyle, that's the feel of the brand, and then it translates to. I mean, sparkling water could be good because you can see that kind of guy drink. Functional drinks, they're probably dosing up on Red Bull.
Yeah,
and gum maybe, and then there's like a different. Like I'm trying to think along the lines of what kind of SKUs do you think those kind of people would like?
Yeah. There's lots of things. I think the functional space is pretty big. You have energy is one sector. You have focus is another sector. With the functionality, gut health, maybe not. Doesn't really focus that much onto that. Nutritional supplements like creatine, protein pre-workout, all that stuff. I think fits in pretty interesting, pretty well. Clothing is another thing. I think clothing is not as big. I would say clothing is more sentimental for people to like want to rep the brand. And when you hit a certain level, maybe that stuff becomes very desirable. But I think sports is just a big segment for us as well in general. And that attracts like the 25 to 50-year-old, 45-year-old male crowd, which seems to be most of our community. I think that's a big part of it as well. So anything that's like supplements to help you better at that kind of stuff as well. So there's quite a wide range, I would say. But that, that stuff that I just mentioned would probably be like the near-term focus, I would say.
At what scale do you feel like you can wean off the token incentives to drive revenue?
Yeah, in terms of cadence or in terms of like...
like
total
like
number,
size.
or
Like let's say if you're making $100 million, so like $20 million in gross profit, you can start standing on TikTok ads and you can stop giving away, tokens, for example.
Yeah, I think that's the flywheel, isn't it? Like as one grows, you can give away more of the other one, and then people want it more because there's a bigger reward pool, and then that grows the other one, right? So I think that stuff feeds on itself. just have to be, you can give away a higher dollar value of tokens when your market cap is higher because it's a lower percentage of total supply. And that's generally the way we need to be thinking about it, I think. So, I don't know, it could get pretty big if we can do a really good job at this and, get to multiple billions instead of FTV, which, yes, you can comp that and be like, oh, it doesn't really make any sense. But then, we've seen things at crazy levels before and FTV is just a meme. You can start giving out a lot of tokens, right? Like if let's say we're at $10 billion FTV, we could, do a fucking like $10 million, $20 million launch, right? Which could be huge size.
You could pay Mr. Beast to plug your product.
But exactly.
I mean, I think it's a war chest, but at some point, like in your revenue scale, you can probably resort to actually paying cash dollars to grow versus like have to give away. I mean, it's like a nice rocket feel, but I'm just trying to get a sense of like, because at some point, your token like treasury is going to run towards 20%, right? Your FDU will be high, but you'll start reaching a scale to maintain that revenue cadence. You have to give away a lot of your tokens. Like I'm just curious, at what point would you be like, we're going to slow down the pace at which we give away tokens, or I guess it'll be more pricing dependent.
Yeah, I think it's price independent. I think it's hard. There's no real scientific answer to that. I think it's just we just have to go by feel. But the numbers that you've mentioned, like $20 million gross profit, I think we could be lower than that even in terms of gross profit in order to be able to do that. I think it's also a scale, right? You can start doing it on small size, and as the revenue grows, you can increase it perhaps. So it's just we need to feel confident that we have sustainable revenues that's coming from people buying the product, not just for the token, which we've started to show signs of. And I think we will actually get there more than people give us credit for. But once we feel confident that those revenues are sustainable, that's when you can start doing it, I think, and start dialing up that scale a little bit.
Yeah. We've talked about a couple of things you want to accomplish this year and next year, and there are things that excite you, right? We talked about 34 million of annualized revenue, and then maybe with a shot on 5 million with some maybe new product launches. We talked about that allowing you to go into further distribution channels, which is already aided by Trump's policy and crypto friendly, like in nature of the industry. Is there anything else that really gets you excited, in the next couple of quarters and months that we haven't talked about?
I think we've covered. I feel like we've covered everything that I wanted to say. I am really excited about the other new products that we have coming out. Like this is one of them that I'm drinking. I won't tell you what it is, but
I don't know what
it will mean nothing to. It will mean nothing to anyone. But I just got delivered a batch of stuff that we developed this weekend, and I've been trying them all, and they're all like. It's hard for anyone to take me seriously because obviously I'm biased to say it, but they are all really good. And
nice.
It genuinely makes me excited to try it. But oh shit, this is actually going to do really, really well, and so much more exciting than the stuff we have right now. So I know it's something I've already mentioned, but that is, I think, that for me, forgetting all the crypto and all that kind of stuff, just as the actual product, I think is really, really good. I'm really, really excited about that. I think.
Got it. Are there any other targets you've set for yourself?
Yeah, one other thing I would like to set, and it's not really a tangible target, but I would love for Rekt to be a case study in what we've done. We've been a bit creative in this whole brand coin stuff and this whole like money creation stuff, and I've been very vocal and really spelt out my line of thinking and how we're doing this and how we're constructing it. And it's something that kind of has been done a little bit in crypto. Consume to earn, like I said, is not new, but I think we've explained it in a way and we've built it in a way where people understand it and there's an existing community. And I would really love just for maybe an academic standpoint, is that, in the future, 5 years or 10 years down the line, people look back and say, oh, wow, like every brand is doing this now, but, Rekt was the first. And what they did was, very game changing or trailblazing. It was cool. It was new. It was innovative. Like, this whole project for me started off as an experiment and largely still is very experimental, but for it to become a strong success story within crypto and also just within traditional business, I think would be something that I just want to achieve from a personal standpoint. To be like, oh, wow, I actually did something that was pretty cool and maybe like changed the rules of the game a little bit. Like I would say that's a personal goal of mine, and hopefully we can achieve it.
I guess last question for me is, there was a safe raise, and then it sounds like you probably would need capital to scale up inventory and sort of fund receivables and payables when you do get those runs. For those who are interested, aside from kind of buying the token, how else could they kind of get involved? Like, I guess you'll be talking to VCs at those points down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at some point, as you say, we will need more capital to do these bigger runs and bigger production. And I don't know. Like, I think two ways. I'm more than happy to speak to anyone one-on-one about this project, and feel free to reach out to me. OSF_Rekt is my X handle, or OSF@Rekt.com is my email, and I'm happy to have any calls. I think we have a strong base of larger Rekt coin holders within the ecosystem, and I think if we have more of a limited raise, I would like to do something where I offer that to people who already hold the Rekt token. I know it's not a direct link between the token and equity, but I feel like it's a way to reward supporters, if that makes sense. And that's kind of generally how we've done things from the Rekt Guy NFT holders. So, those are the guys that we have, like the Rekt Trillionaires group, which is like the Rekt Whale group, I guess. And those are the guys that kept informed, and will be the first to have those investment opportunities and that kind of stuff. So that's generally how I think about it. But I'm always happy to have one-on-one conversation with people and talk about ideas and stuff like that. I think for us, when we do the raise, we want to have strategic people. I think it's like, okay, like what can X, Y, Z bring to the table? And in the drinks world, that may be people who are industry focused, but crypto is a big focus for us, and I think it would be good to have ideas like that from a strategic side as well.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a product that should go on Shark Tank, for example, and then get funded. But I'm serious, like Mark Cuban plastered all over, or like some UFC fighters start rapping your product. I mean, those would be cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I have anything else. Best of luck, Avi. I mean, this is a fun conversation. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks.